stuck with a stone for 24 hours. His hands were already blue-gray in color. It was useless to save it, but what worries him more now is that he had only about 300 milliliters of water left and would not last more than a few days. He had stopped sharpening the stone because the sharper the knife, the harder the stone, the more dull it became. It was not going to work. At night, he unpacked the dry food he had brought with him. He ate in small bites. After eating, he drank a little water, not daring to drink more. He carefully took off his contact lenses and put them in his mouth. He didn't pee for the rest of the day. On the third day, he continued to try his best to. He wrapped an elastic cord around the stone several times. The rope was attached to the top of the post by a spring-loaded buckle to make a fixed pulley. Good physics. However, whether he wrapped it around his hand and pulled, or wrapped around his feet and stepped on them with all his strength, the stone didn't even shake. After all this work, it was all for nothing. Desperate, his mind is filled with water. Water, drink, beer. At last he couldn't resist. Opened his water bottle and took a small sip. Then he suddenly felt the urge to pee. He pulled down his trousers and peed in one go. It was probably due to the lack of water in his body that caused the problem. The second time he learned his lesson and peed into the water bag. Maybe that would help next. At dusk this day he summed it up for the camera. His fixed pulley didn't work because the rope was stretchy. He only had 150 milliliters of water left. It would only last until tomorrow night. Then, he finds the straw of his water bag was wrapped in a cotton woven bag. It was a good tourniquet. In fact, inside he knew what the only way was. He wrapped this tourniquet around his right hand, then used a spring-loaded buckle to pull it ever tighter and tighter. Then he took out his utility knife and started cutting his hand, but it was so dull that he couldn't even cut the skin. It couldn't even cut through the skin. He was already very weak and groggy. He drank some water and accidentally knocked over his water bottle. Much of the precious water was wasted. In a moment of desperation, he remembers his ex-girlfriend to make himself feel better inside. Suddenly, lightning flashes, and it's about to rain. He hurriedly opened his mouth and opened his water bottle to catch the water. The rain fell more and more and instantly integrated into small rivers, which began to flood and pour into the crevices of the hill. Soon the water came up slowly and flooded over his head. He pushed hard against the rock in the water. The stone was pushed away, and he was free. He rushed back to his car. He drove all the way to his ex-girlfriend's house. He tried to get her back, but he couldn't make a sound. His ex-girlfriend slammed the door. He woke up in tears. It was a dream. He was still in this canyon of nightmares. On the fourth day, he drank the last of the water. There was no more water. His heart was beating fast, and he was shivering with cold. Death had knocked at the door. He decided not to wait any longer.